welcome to CultureBanx Game Changers. I'm Corey Hale, joined by the one, the only Dan Roberts in the house. Hey, Dan.
What's up? What's up?
Oh, well, a lot, and we have a lot to get to today, as we, of course, are bringing you the most interesting companies changing up the game.
Today we're discussing the new marketplace that publishers and advertisers can use to connect people. We'll have the head honcho of 11 Digital. Also, we're breaking down the best way to stay connected in your community through technology with the boss from Squad. First though, let's get started with some entrepreneurial news that everybody should be aware of this week.
And there is a lot of it. Smart businesses, folks, well, they are planning for tomorrow. And what tomorrow holds is going to be the Internet of Things. It's going to be everywhere. Zebra Technology's second annual Intelligence Enterprise Index showed 86% of large enterprises are actually planning on increasing their Internet of Things spending. So small businesses like you guys out there, you need to be prepared for a world of sensors on everything from equipment to inventory, machinery. It's going to be infiltrated in every aspect.
Yeah, and I think that's most obvious with Amazon's, their new cashierless stores, right? There's going to be a ton of sensors where you don't even have to go to register and swipe your card. You just pick it up, walk out the door, and they charge your bank account.
Right.
So sensors are everywhere right now.
The Internet of Things is just that huge interweb of every machine, engine kind of talking to one another, and it's actually going to make it easier for companies to scale and for people to continue to branch out their businesses and perhaps easily take them global.
Yeah. With Amazon's move to Long Island City, New York and Crystal City, Virginia for the HQ2 locations, many businesses are likely to see a boost from tech giants. However, considering Amazon has put several companies out of business, there is an interesting trade-off for the mom and pop shops. They've spent all this time building their businesses, however they view Amazon as an adversary. So they've turned to a frenemy.
Oh, who doesn't like a frenemy?
I know.
What
I kind of
makes
get
sense?
it. Mean Girls. You know,
I mean, Mean Girls is one of my favorite movies. Actually, an old coworker and I, back in the day, my old producing days, we used to quote a lot of Mean Girl comments.
Don't even go here.
Primarily,
Amazon, don't go here.
We wear pink on Wednesdays, Amazon. But yes, Amazon moving to Queens in New York and Long Island City, and of course right outside of DC, is good news. But this is of course the great disruptor of all companies, meaning that they were the company that started out as a bookstore that put Barnes & Noble out of business back when Barnes & Noble's laughed at them. They have put many small companies out of business, but now with them expanding their headquarters, taking it from, not just being on the West Coast, moving it back to the East Coast in 2 different cities, that means that those companies that perhaps have been afraid of Amazon for quite some time are now actually going to benefit from this company being in their city.
Totally, yeah. They are changing the game again and again and again.
Next up, the social tech platform that's helping you grow your squad. Keep it locked right here with CultureBanx Game Changers.
Welcome back to Game Changers. Our first guest is helping people find true, meaningful, and authentic connections. Joining us now is Eisah Watson, CEO of Squad.
Thank you so much for having me, Dan and Corey.
Thanks so much for dropping by. So I've been doing a little browsing of the internet, and I saw that Squad was recognized by Inc. magazine in 2017. How did that happen?
We were an Inc. 30 Under 30 company. So right 60 days before I turned 30, they hit us up and they were like, we really love what you're doing. We got interviewed by the editors and we were selected as one of their top 30 companies of that year.
Amazing. All right, let's go back a little bit to just really tell our viewers what Squad is, how they can grow their squad, and what this really means for authentically connecting with others.
Yeah, so one of the big gaps that we find in the world today of technology is that you're able to facilitate online communication. You have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have Instagram, but what about, the ability to take those online connections offline at scale? And so that was what Squad essentially is and does. And so you can imagine as a central repository for all events and activities going on across your different communities. And so to your point, Corey, of how can people use this, we actually started out in the workplaces. So workplaces, just work in general, they were just having a hard time cultivating community at work. And with millennials, it's just much more important to cultivate that community for them to feel connected. And so we started off with companies like Walmart.com and SeatGeek and Carbon 3D. And what happened is we actually enabled the ability for people to create communities, not just work communities, but outside. So you have, non-work communities like your wellness communities, fitness communities, your apartment building communities, whatever the case is, and that's that central place that you can access all events and activities going on across your communities.
Amazing. So just like a ton of startups, you received some VC funding. What was that process like? I heard it can be very strenuous, and of course you have to give a little bit of equity to sometimes the funders. So what was that like?
The process was tricky. It's not normal and natural to anyone who hasn't done it a ton of times. And so I would say that it was a very long ramp up, meaning it took us a few years to raise $500,000, and it took us like a month to be offered $6 million. Wow. We've raised a total of about $3.5 million in VC funding. And, I would say that it's almost straight hustle with a combination of storytelling and a little bit of luck of getting in front of the right people at the right time. The funny thing about it is that the guy who led our round is at a company called Harrison Metal. So they were the first institutional investors in companies like Birchbox and Harry's and Heroku. And when he first heard about us, he passed on us the first time. And then 2 months later, he heard about us and he was like, oh, this sounds awesome. And sometimes it happens like that and you can't really control it. There's no logic in the process, but Michael Daring has been such a fantastic partner to us. And so on the other side, it's great, but then we have the next round, so we'll see.
Oh, congrats. Y'all are doing some awesome stuff.
Well, they are actually doing amazing things because not only have you guys raised several $1 million in funding, you guys have Squad able to connect people all across the country, not just in your office, as you mentioned, where you guys started out. Can you talk about that some?
Yeah, so the way that the platform is structured is that you have, if you're familiar with Slack, right? You have a community, which is kind of like your workspace in Slack. And then you have squads in those communities, which are like your channels in Slack, right? And so across your different communities, you have the ability to have different squads. A number of the communities do have a region association, but there are some communities that don't have a region associated. But again, kind of with the goal of driving online connections offline at scale, that's where kind of like the region plays into it. But we do see people part of the same communities that aren't necessarily in the same place, and just kind of cultivating connections that way.
Amazing. Well, Corey's a part of my squad, and now you're a part of my squad.
Eisah's part of my squad as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you're killing it. Well, thank you so much, Eisah Watson from Squad. We really appreciate you coming out today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, and coming up next, we are diving into the marketplace for buying and selling content at scale. You don't want to miss it. Stick around, more CultureBanx Game Changers coming up. Gone are the days of advertisers and content publishers doing one-off deals thanks to 11 Digital's new marketplace platform for branded content at scale. Let's welcome our next guest, Elkanah Reed, the CEO of 11 Digital. Hey, Elkanah.
Hey, I'm very happy to be here with you.
Well, we are more excited, especially because the platform that you're building, I believe, perhaps I'm biased as a content publisher, is really something that's going to revolutionize the industry. But for our viewers, let's just start off with exactly how 11 Digital works.
Okay, so 11 Digital works very simply. A publisher like CultureBanx would upload their entire content schedule, and then an advertiser can go in and buy against that audience. And then as you agree on the price, you would roll out the content in your normal content schedule.
Just that simple.
It's that simple.
Yeah, so there's so many ad tools out there like, Google, Facebook. What sets us apart?
So what sets us apart versus, your Google and your Facebook is that Google and Facebook are focused on disruptive advertising units. Google and Facebook respectively focus on pre-roll, mid-roll ads. Versus 11 Digital, we're talking about advertising in content. I built this company because I believe that we're in the age of uninterrupted entertainment. That means most of us as millennials prefer content over ads. Yet advertisers need to get their messages to us. So in order to reach the right message at the right time with the right people, you have to get the message into content.
Makes sense.
No, it definitely does. So when advertisers come onto your platform, what is it that you think they're going to be expecting in terms of the branded audience that they can get directly in front of?
So when an advertiser comes onto the 11 Digital platform, they're actually looking for the audience that they can't get to anywhere else. So with millennials, most of us are a part of the cord-cutting generation. Right now, Netflix has more paid subscribers than all of US cable. So when an advertiser comes to 11 Digital, they're trying to get to me, they're trying to get to you, Corey, and they're trying to get to you. Daniel, there we go. Like, we're trying to get to you, Daniel, because we're the audience that they want. So last quick piece of data, in 2019, millennials actually are going to surpass baby boomers. So right now, there are about 72 million baby boomers in America. In 2019, there are going to be 73 million millennials who are spending $200 billion annually. So advertisers want a cut of that money.
So how do you aggregate all this information? Where does it even come from?
So our information comes directly from the publisher. So when publishers sign up for 11 and they upload their content schedule, we're able to understand what the audience watches. So we can actually build a data set that is unique to 11 and advertisers can target against that.
Right, so you're easily able to go in, let's say a show like GameChangers perhaps, we can upload the series or at least the aspects of what's going to be coming down the pipeline and publishers could easily buy against our branded audience.
Exactly.
All right, well there we go. We got it all figured out, folks. This is Elkanah Reed, the founder, CEO, and what I think is probably the next billionaire from 11 Digital.
Well,
Thanks for joining us.
we're working on it one day at a time.
1 billion at a time. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Stick with us on Game Changers as we break down the best way to fund your startup. Welcome back to CultureBanx Game Changers. If you're ready to start your own business, don't let money stop you from pursuing your dreams. Here are a few tips on how to fund your dream company. Number 1, start where you are by bootstrapping or crowdfunding. It's a great way to spur your business.
Well, it's super duper important to invest in yourself first because no one else is going to believe in you until you believe in yourself. Something else that aspiring entrepreneurs can look to do are looking at incubators and accelerator programs that will invest in early stage companies for little to no equity, something like 5,000 startups, Y Combinator, and even Backstage Capital.
Of course, there's venture capital funding, but you have to be prepared to give a small portion of your company away in equity. Also, look into alternative capital like grants from a foundation. That's a great way to start your business as well.
It's an excellent way. I know CultureBanx got a little boost that way as well. All right, folks, that's all we have time for today. I'm Corey Hale.
I'm Dan Roberts.
Make sure you catch all of the savvy business news specifically for the culture at CultureBanx.com and get connected to your squad and venture into the content marketplace with 11 Digital.
And catch next week's episode of Game Changers, which is always available on Roku, Apple TV, and Verizon. Until then, keep building for the culture.
See ya.